So I figured today we would just do a quick video on common problems with FOXBODY clusters. First off, let's talk about the LEDs, because I'm sure that's probably the reason why most of you are here. This is where your normal bulb will go, and these are the LEDs that you'll put in. So what you're going to do is take off the little black caps here, and you're just going to take these bulbs that I'll have a link to down below and just push them in. That's all you got to do. Now I do recommend, once you get them in, to wiggle a little bit, just in case there's a little bit of corrosion on these tabs right here. Anyway, just wiggle it around some, make sure it's got a good connection, and then you're literally just going to pop them in like this and give it a twist. That's how that works, guys. This is just very simple. Now, the one thing that I do want to talk to you guys about is the location of these. I don't put them in the center right here where all of your lights are, because let me tell you something. If you have an LED in here for your bright light indicator, wow, that's really bright at night. So you really don't want that at night, because that will blind you. So I leave these out, or I leave the normal bulbs in here. So if you think about it, you have a light here, 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 and you have lights here. Let's turn it around and check this out. So you can see over here, there's actually only a couple of lights that light up for this. So these are your blinkers. That's something else that I leave. That's completely up to you. You can change them all out. Honestly, I just like to leave the ones in here that are only going to light up this stuff. Okay, so anyway, you can play around with that if you like. You can buy all LEDs and put them in here. This is the thing I want to remind you guys of, though. You don't have to buy these Scott Drake colored LEDs. I mean, you don't need those. Your panel in behind here is actually colored. As you can see, you have your yellow, your red, and there's a cover behind here that gives you your green glow. So don't think that you got to have green LEDs, red, yellow, all that. You don't have to have that. So what are some other common cluster problems? Well, one of the big things is your fuel gauge when it doesn't work. So most of the time we think it's a fuel sending unit, and you're probably right. It probably is. But this is your anti-slosh module right here. Depending on the year, yours may be in a different location or look a little different. This is an 89, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember, but it's not the 140 mile an hour. But this is where mine's located. This fell out and my gauge went completely haywire and went all the way to full. So check to make sure that your module is still in place. And what this does is basically what it says. It keeps your gauge from sloshing around. That way your gauge, isn't erratic and moving up and down every time the car moves. This thing just kind of slows everything down. So mine come out. I thought that something in the back of the car was wired up wrong, because we pretty much built this car from scratch and had no wiring in it, so we had to put all that in. Well, we had to splice some wires here and there and do some stuff, so I just assumed that I had done something wrong. Actually, it was this. Now, it was still connected. The terminals right here were not making a good connection, so clean this up, come back and clean these connections here, and it went to working fine. But I didn't put a long enough screw in it, and it fell out. So today we're going to put a longer screw in. It's a really long screw. I hope there's nothing back there behind it. I guess we'll find out. So all we're going to do is give this thing a good little wiggle, like I said before. Make sure that everything's making a connection, and just tighten it down. So that should be good, guys. I also want to talk to you about the Haze lenses and stuff like that. So I'll show you guys how to go about that. Now, I've already buffed the lens on mine, so you guys probably won't see much of a difference. I'm using a Wizard's Finish Cut. You can use whatever you got, just a light compound. That's it. This is like on a scale of 1 to 12. It's saying that it's like a 4 with a foam pad. Anyway, guys, use whatever it is you got. Even wax, helps. All you want to do is just come in and swirl. You would not believe the difference that this makes with these plastic lenses. Just keep in mind that this is plastic, so this stuff, it works really quick. It's not as hard as the clear coat on your paint, so it's going to work a lot quicker. You want to stay away from your odometer reset right here, because it will get down in there. If it does, though, you can just take this lens off and clean it from behind. And there you go, guys. Nice and clean. So you can also take it a step further and take this outer cover off, clean it from the back side. You can get in here and lightly dust behind this cover. I'm not going to take mine off just because reasons, but there you go, guys. Looks pretty good. And once you get it in the car, it's going to look really good. once you get the bezel and everything around it, because you're not going to see most of this down here and on the sides. Also, be mindful right here on these little tabs, because the little copper strips or whatever they are will come off. They'll slide. They're basically just kind of glued on, and you have to be really mindful of these, because they will cross up on you and touch each other because they can move. You can see this clear plastic right here. Well, these things are basically just glued to that and kind of attached to it, but that glue gets soft over time, and these things will actually slide on you. Let's see if I can just show you. It's actually come completely off of the plastic right here. That's usually not a problem. Just put everything back. Also, you have little tabs here where your plastic kind of locks in. That'll help keep everything lined up for you. So just push that in. Like I said, just be mindful, keep these things in line with each other. Just make sure they're not crossed up. Same thing over here. This side's usually not as bad, but it will happen over here too. I'm going to go ahead and put this back in, and let's see if that slosh module fixed the problem. Also, another common problem are your connections coming out of your plug here. These plugs are basically just dry and brittle and old. They got a lot of heat on them. Just because of the current that's pulled through here. So these LEDs will also help with that some too. So be mindful of that. And that's a good thing. Put you some LEDs in your car, and it's going to draw a little less power, so it'll be a little less heat moving through all these plugs. Same thing over here. If you put LED headlights and fog lights in, you won't get this crusty burn up crap anymore like we've had to deal with through all these years. You can see right here somebody's already done a fix at some point, put a new plug on it, and this plug is also burned up. There's just a lot of current that comes through here that runs these headlights and fog lights and stuff like that. What you can do here is put everything back in place the way that it goes, and I don't actually know which way this goes, so I don't know which wire goes where. So there's a few different ways of going about this. You can either buy a new plug, push all these out, and put your new stuff in. You can glue it in, or you can do what I like to do, which is just take a toothpick, wedge the toothpick in, and just simply break it off, and that will hold that wire in. It's really simple. That way you're not gluing anything, and it's easy to come back out. The best thing to do is just buy a new plug, obviously, but if you're in a pinch, you can also use like hot glue or something if you need to. All right, let's hook this up and see if this module fixed my gas gauge problem. And this is how I get this on out. My car does not have a speedometer cable at the moment, so I don't have to deal with that. But that's going to be one of the first things you want to hook up is your speedometer cable. You're just going to have to kind of reach back here and push it in. Let's see if we have fuel. Cross your fingers and hope that this fuel gauge works now. Look at that, guys. Oh boy, we are like out of fuel. And if you're wondering why the oil pressure gauge jumps up like that, it's the wrong one. The oil pressure gauge that is in this car is for the wrong year, so that's what it does. And then when you start the car up, it jumps down to 0. So I got to get that. Water temperature sending unit's bad on the car, so I got to get that too. All right, sorry about that, guys. Earlier I had to kind of cut the video short, but I wanted to show you that the gas gauge is working. These things are finicky, guys, these gauges and stuff with these lights, but I'll go ahead and switch the key on for you guys to show you that the gas gauge now does work. I tried to drive the car to the gas station, and it was completely like out of gas. It was below E, so at least I know now that the car will go below E, and I'll probably test that a time or two. I will run a car like out of gas. I swear I'm the world's worst about keeping fuel in a car. Anyway, guys, that's about it. You know, I wanted to do like a quick video for you to talk about a few of the little issues with the cluster, like putting the LEDs in it, kind of what it looks like, and then talk about that anti-slosh module up there. Now, it's going to be different for different year cars. So like I said, this has the 85-mile-an-hour speedometer in it, and I think the 140s are a little different. But either way, they all have a module like that, and if that thing is bad, then your gas gauge just won't work. Most of the time, people think it's a sending unit or something like that, or a bad wire, but a lot of times it's just that module. So check Make sure your module isn't bad. It seems like your dimmer on these things are really bad about going out. Like you have to wiggle it to get the lights to come on just right. Especially with LEDs, since they don't dim, it's either on or off. I mean, you'll kind of have to play with this thing just to get it just right. So
when I turn mine on, my instrument cluster lights turn on.
yeah, it's pretty bad. So anyway, that dimmer switch, you know, can go bad. You know, we kind of covered this earlier with the light switches and how they kind of burn out and stuff. There's been times when these things catch on fire or just start smoking on you and whatnot, and the switches actually get a bad rap. But it's not the switches, it's the current that goes through the switches. That's why if you can go to an LED up front in your headlights, you can do that and you'll save a little bit of that load that's on this switch right here. But yeah, other than that, guys, that's about it. Just want to help you guys out with some of that stuff. It was something I needed to do today. And we're actually about to go ahead and get started on this. So I'll give you a little bit of a sneak peek right here of the car. And we're about to get started on probably water pump and finish clearancing the valve covers. Andrew's really excited about that. Probably one of his favorite things to do. The valve covers are probably the worst part of this all, so I'll probably handle that and just let Andrew do the water pump. You know, the water pump, it's right there in front of you, so it's a lot easier to do, and I want to be fair, so that's probably what we're going to do. Stay tuned for the next video as we pull this out and, I don't know, hopefully fix this. So, alright guys, as always, thanks for watching.